Let's get started with our first news story, and it's a big one. Dricus du Plessis has opened up about his upcoming middleweight title defense against none other than Khamzat Chimaev. He continued with a statement that showed exactly where his confidence lies. "I'm not here to win a wrestling match or a grappling match. We're not fighting for a wrestling title. We're not fighting for a grappling title. We're fighting for the UFC title, and in that arena, I am the best." And it didn't stop there. He made sure to reinforce the mindset that got him to the top. "I'm not the best wrestler. I'm not the best grappler. I'm not the best striker. But when you combine all of those skills, and that is the sport we do, I am the best in the world." That's the mindset of a true mixed martial artist. Someone who doesn't dominate in just one discipline but in the combination of all. That's where du Plessis believes he separates himself, not just from Khamzat, but from everyone else. When reporters asked him if he feels any added pressure going into this fight, du Plessis gave a brutally honest answer. He said, "Yeah, I think for me, pressure is a big part of the game. If you don't feel any pressure, then you don't care enough." And that's real. Fighters who step into that octagon without pressure, they're not fully invested. He elaborated further. "For me, the pressure comes from setting high expectations for myself. Going out there and defending my belt. Coming home without it is not an option. That's the mentality of a champion. Someone who doesn't just want to win. He expects to win. He needs to win. The champ is ready. He knows what's coming. He respects Khamzat's skills, but he believes he's built for this. This is MMA, and in MMA, Dricus says he's the best. We're constantly working on improving our content to earn your love and support. That's why we truly appreciate it if you could take just a moment to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update." Moving on to our next story, and it's a deeply personal one. Belal Muhammad recently opened up about something most fans overlook: what it really feels like to lose a professional MMA fight. Now, from the outside looking in, most people see just the result: a win or a loss, a highlight reel knockout or a tough decision. But what fans don't see is what that loss actually means to the fighter, emotionally, mentally, and physically. Belal shared that every fight starts long before the cage door closes. He explained how fighters go through an intense, often brutal 8 to 10 week training camp. And that camp, it's focused entirely around one goal: winning the fight. You focus on your strategy, you dial in your nutrition, you put your entire life on hold to prepare. Every meal, every run, every sparring session, it all builds toward that one moment. But in this game, nothing is promised. Belal said, "So many trolls laugh, they talk trash, they say whatever they want to say. But what is it really like to lose? And that's the part most people just don't understand. You go through the grind, the pain, the sacrifice, and then you come up short." He explained how people will come up and offer kind words. They'll say, "Oh man, sorry you lost the fight. Keep your head up, you got the next one." And then, a couple days later, it's gone. It's forgotten. For them, but not for the fighter. For the fighter, he said, "You're still living with it. You're still thinking about it. It's still eating at you. Even myself, I'm still thinking about it." That kind of pain doesn't disappear. It stays with you, and it drives you. Belal talked about what happens after the loss. There's no time to sit back and feel sorry for yourself. The work starts again. Immediately. You lost. And now you have to prepare again. Just as hard, maybe even harder. I don't care if you're sick. I don't care if you're tired. You come to the gym. He laid it out in raw terms. I don't care if you don't feel like training, you show up. Because on fight day, you don't get to say, "I don't feel good." You don't get to back out because you feel off. You still have to step in that cage. You still have to lock that door. You still have to throw hands. And that's the truth of fighting, training your body and your mind to show up regardless. You have to train to be in you uncomfortable spots, he said. You have to push even when there's nothing left in the tank. You don't want to run that extra mile, but you do, because you never want to feel that sting again. The feeling of losing, the feeling of letting down your team, your coaches, the people who believed in you. In the end, he said, for fighters, you live with it. You carry it, and you let it fuel you. That's the hidden side of MMA, the part beyond the cameras, where warriors rebuild themselves in silence, preparing to rise again. Moving on, Matt Brown recently made some bold and honest remarks about Conor McGregor, and according to him, Conor's identity was completely ripped apart by Dustin Poirier. Matt didn't hold back. He said, "Look, we don't know Conor as a person. We don't know him personally. We don't know what's actually going on in his life. If you judge only by what you see on social media, which is just a highlight reel, let's be honest, then yeah, I'd seriously question his mental health." Brown explains something that hits home for many fighters. Your identity becomes intertwined with your career. Every fighter knows it, whether you admit it or not. This sport becomes your life. Your sense of self starts to revolve around being a fighter. We talk about this stuff with sports psychologists all the time. They'll say you're more than just a fighter, that you're still a whole person outside of it. And that's true, but you can't help it. The fight game swallows your identity. He added, "I don't care what anyone tries to tell you or what you try to convince yourself of. When you finally walk away from the cage, maybe it's after an injury or retirement or a losing streak, at some point it hits you. That was who you were. That wasn't just a job. That was all of who you were." And that's where Matt believes Conor is struggling now. He says the confident, dominant alpha figure that Conor used to be was shattered. He said Dustin Poirier didn't just beat Conor, he took his soul. Yeah, Khabib might have started that process, but it was Dustin who put the final nail in the coffin. He didn't just win the fight, he broke down Conor's entire identity in front of the world. Brown said he's probably sitting around right now asking himself, "I've got all this money, now what?" When you have everything, the cars, the mansions, the private jets, the yachts, the fame, it sounds like a dream, but without a purpose it all feels empty. And that's not just speculation. Brown brought up something many ultra-wealthy people say. Once you reach that level of financial success, your biggest challenge becomes figuring out what the hell to do next. Finding purpose gets harder, especially when your whole life has been about chasing one thing, being the best fighter on the planet. That's why you need solid people around you, good friends, real family, people who ground you when the spotlight fades. According to Matt, Conor McGregor's journey right now isn't about fighting, it's about rediscovering WHO he is, without the fame, without the cage, and without the glory. Ray Longo's immediate reaction? Wow, that can't be a big line, right? He clearly didn't expect such a significant gap in the odds. But when you actually sit back and look at what Khamzat did to Whittaker, the picture starts to make a lot more sense. Let's not forget, Khamzat absolutely ran through one of the most experienced middleweights in the world. Whittaker didn't look like himself at all. In fact, Khamzat made Whittaker, a former champion, look like a complete rookie in the octagon. It was shocking, dominant, and honestly a little scary. That kind of performance doesn't just get fans talking, it sends a message to everyone in the division, including the ODS makers. Think about this, Du Plessis is the current champion. He beat Sean Strickland in a gritty, tough fight to take the belt. He's undefeated in the UFC. He's known for his awkward but effective style, his pressure, and his power. Yet despite all of that, he's still the underdog going into this fight. But Ray Longo brings up a great point here. Betting lines aren't just about skill, they're about peer reception. Khamzat's performance against Whittaker was so dominant, so one-sided, that it shifted the entire narrative. It made fans and bettors forget just how good Du Plessis really is. This is the kind of matchup that's gonna test both men. Khamzat's pressure and wrestling versus Du Plessis, an unorthodox movement, cardio and striking. It's not gonna be easy for either guy. But the fact that Du Plessis, the reigning champion, is such a big underdog, that's rare in title fights. Ray Longo's reaction, that raw, honest surprise, is exactly how many hardcore fans feel too. It's one thing for Khamzat to be the favorite, but being a 205 favorite, that's a strong statement from the betting world. It shows that despite all the belts, all the history, and all the experience, perception still matters more than anything in the fight game. And if Du Plessis can pull this off, he won't just be defending his belt, he'll be shattering expectations. And now, onto another developing situation. Khabib Nurmagomedov just dropped a bombshell that has the entire MMA world buzzing. During a recent interview, the undefeated legend revealed something massive about his longtime friend and protege, Islam Makhachev. According to Khabib, Islam may retire in just a year and a half. Yeah, you heard that right. We're talking about one of the most dominant fighters on the planet, possibly stepping away from the sport within the next 18 months. That's a major shift. If that timeline is accurate, we might only get to see Islam fight 3, maybe 4 more times before he hangs up the gloves. And that changes everything. Suddenly, every fight from here on out becomes critical. It's no longer about title defenses or rankings, it's about legacy. It's about choosing opponents who can define your place in history. That's why there's now a ton of chatter about one potential super fight that could shake the sport to its core: Islam Makhachev versus Ilia Topuria. Let's break this down. Ilia Topuria is a monster. He's UN defeated. He just knocked out Charles Oliveira and captured the UFC lightweight title in brutal fashion. He's confident, he's controversial, and he's building a massive following across Europe and Latin America. The guy's a superstar in the making. Meanwhile, Islam has been on an absolute tear. He dominated Charles Oliveira, beat Volkanovski twice, and has been looking untouchable at 55. But with this possible retirement looming, Islam has no time to waste. He can't just coast. He has to go for the biggest, most legacy-defining fights available. And right now, Ilia is that fight. Even Paul Felder said it out loud on the Bisping podcast. With Islam potentially retiring soon, the usual rankings and title defense schedules don't matter anymore. This is about cementing your name in history. It's about chasing greatness. It's about going out on top. And think about what's at stake. Pound for pound supremacy. Right now, Ilia has actually jumped ahead of Islam in the UFC's official P4P rankings. That's a big deal for a guy like Islam, especially for someone coming out of the Dagestani camp, where pride, discipline, and perfection are everything. These fighters don't just want to win, they want to dominate. They want to be unquestionably the best. And right now, Ilia is mocking Islam. He's making it personal. He's throwing shade, posting subtle jabs on social media, and calling himself the true king at 55. And after what he did to Charles, it's hard to ignore him. He's proved he can hang with the elite in that division. He's not just talk anymore, he's a problem. So now, with Islam's clock ticking, the super fight makes total sense. It's got drama, it's got stakes, it's got storylines. And most importantly, it's a true passing of the torch moment, or maybe a chance for Islam to shut down the hype and walk away as the undisputed best to ever do it. And finally, let's wrap things up with something truly heartwarming. Dustin Poirier was recently seen doing something that proves he's not just a warrior in the octagon, but a hero outside of it too. In his hometown of Lafayette, Dustin hosted his annual back-to-school charity drive, and this year it was bigger than ever before. Over 1,200 backpacks were handed out to kids, helping families gear up for the new school year. That's right, over 1,200. Think about that for a second. That's more than 1,000 children who now have supplies, bags, and a little less stress going into school. All thanks to Dustin Poirier. This marks the 5th year in a row that Dustin's been doing this. Year after year, it just keeps growing in scale and turnout and in heart. Footage from the event showed long lines of kids and parents, but no one was complaining. In fact, everyone was smiling. Volunteers were laughing, families were bonding, and the atmosphere felt more like a celebration than a charity event. It was truly a community coming together, united not just by school prep, but by the impact one man continues to make. And let's be clear, Dustin Poirier didn't have to do this. He's not running for office. He's not chasing headlines. He did it because he cares, because he remembers where he came from, and because he understands that being a fighter isn't just about knockouts and belts. It's about showing up for your people. Now look, in the MMA world, we often celebrate fighters for their grit, their wins, and their octagon moments. But this right here, this is just as powerful. From handing out lunches during the pandemic, to auctioning off his fight gear for families in need, Dustin Poirier is showing that the fight doesn't stop when the cage door closes. In a world where fighters are often in the news for trash talk and controversy, it's moments like this that cut through all the noise and remind us of the good that still exists in the sport. So hats off to Dustin Poirier, not just for being a beast in the cage, but a champion for his community.